Day two of AGBT, Advances in Genome Biology, Marco Island, Florida. Julianna LeMieux is on the ground, in the air, on her balcony, taking a very quick break from a very packed schedule, I can tell. How's it going so far, Juliana?
It's great, Kevin. It's good. I think I've hit a stride and it's been very busy. But I'm going to echo what I said yesterday. Still just like really a lot of exciting technology and science going on.
Yeah, yeah. So I know yesterday evening was a busy night of sweet parties. I had to figure out what spelling you meant, but now I get it. Hotel suite parties with some big show and tell events. What stood out for you?
Yeah, so that night is always one to look forward to here at AGBT, mostly because first of all, everybody goes. I mean, so you get to bump into people that you maybe haven't seen yet, so that's always really nice. Also, it's just like very social and fun, but it's also, as you know, Kevin, you kind of never stop, working here talking about science and technology. So like, you could find yourself on a balcony at 1 or 2 a.m., but everyone's talking about spatial and single cell. So it just goes all night last night. And also, so yeah, all the companies or the sponsoring companies have suites. And so you get to walk around, you get to talk to them, you get to see some of the things that they're showcasing. So it's always one to look forward to. And it was a lot of fun last night. And I will say, in addition to just all of that, there was kind of a big reveal. So Roche, which has already made buzz about their new sequencing instrument by having the webinar last week and, pre-releasing some information last week. Well, last night they kind of unveiled their boxes. And so we got to go into, I mean, it was madness. It was so packed in there. I had to wait a little bit because everybody wanted to see the boxes. And actually, I was a little surprised there's more than one box. So that was kind of interesting. So one is, as far as I understand, for the synthesis of the expanders, which is like kind of the linchpin of this new technology. And this is what Mark Kokoris developed years ago at Stratos Genomics. So these expanders, which are built off of the DNA, which is built by these XNTPs. So that's one box. And then the sequencing and compute is a separate box. They're both benchtops. They're not small, but they're not big. I'd say they're middle. But anyway, so that was a lot of people in the Roche suite last night. Yeah.
So you previewed this technology in a story for Jen a couple of days ago, just before you flew down to Marco Island, correct? So they did a webinar, I believe, where to kind of give the basics of the technology. Where did the technology come from? I believe one company, at least one of the companies, was bought like 10 years ago.
Okay, yeah. So actually, it's really this marriage of two technologies,
Yeah,
both of which were companies that Roche acquired. One is the Stratos Genomics that I already mentioned, and then Genia Technologies, which is the kind of the nanopore
right.
part of the system. So the Stratos is like the chemistry, the expandomer technology, and then the Genia, and then they put them together, and now there's a box.
Yeah. And I mean, you're so well connected with the audience there. What's the general, but what was the initial reaction been like?
Yeah, so it's interesting. They've really rolled out information little by little. So as you said, last week was the webinar, and then also they released a preprint either yesterday or the day before, which gave more information as to what's going on. And then they revealed the boxes last night, and now today. Just now, I just got back from it. They had their silver sponsor lunch talk where Mark Corcoran and others gave more information.
Yeah.
And some of it's the same, what they talked about last week, but some was more information. And actually, what they had also were outside users, right? So, it's one thing for the companies to say, well, this is how the instrument works at our office. And then the other is for people to say, well, they installed the box here, and this is how it runs for us. And so that was pretty interesting to look at those data. I will say one thing that was pretty surprising to me, which is that those data, the boxes were installed. I I don't want to say the exact date, but like very recently.
Hmm.
So either late 2024, or I think one was even maybe January. So these data are hot off the sequencer, and they're
Yeah.
really the first sequencing data that's coming out of them. So I think the bottom line is there's still a lot more information to come. I will add one piece of information that's completely absent is the price.
Oh,
And
really?
they know this. I mean, they addressed this at the lunch talk and they said, we know everybody wants to know the price. It's coming, even more information to come. They're thinking about it. So, and they did also say, they know where the market is going to demand, and they're going to, be there. So
Before we leave, I mean, that seems strange. You've got 1,000 of your potential hottest, biggest customers all in one place, and you don't have a price. Anyway, put that to one side. Where is the niche, do you think? Is this technology potentially looking at one particular vendor or one particular box or one particular type of application?
That's a really good question. So from what I can tell so far, yeah, because it's everybody's always touching these different points. How long is the read? Is it highly accurate? Is it cheap? Is it fast? So they seem, from what I've heard, to be talking more about speed. And it does seem to be pretty high accuracy. So the speed thing is something. So they actually had one of these outside users talking about, how there was the Guinness World Record, and
Yeah.
first it was by Stephen Kingsmore, then it was beaten by you and Ashley, and so it keeps going down and down. I think the last one, I wrote it down, but it's like somewhere around 7 hours. Well, they haven't beaten it, but they're somewhere, in that space already with their like very young technology.
Okay.
So the speed is a thing.
Okay.
And highly accurate. But it's a good question. You have to, in this crowded market, you would think you do need to bring something that's significantly better. And so we'll see what it is. I think it's early days. There's a lot of excitement, I will say, but early days.
Pretty interesting that, a company like Roche acquires these startups, I guess, essentially a decade or more ago. So on the one hand, you could say, wow, it's taken them so long. But on the other hand, they didn't kill it. They kept with it. And now it seems like they may have something which, of course, we remember Roche really kind of kicking off the next gen sequencing era 20 years ago by acquiring 454, Jonathan Rothberg's company. So kind of, I guess, as a neutral, it would be nice to have them back. Let's see what sort of an impact this has.
I think that history that you're talking about is one of the reasons why it's so buzzy,
Yeah,
because it is Roche,
yeah,
and that aspect is there. So yeah.
good. Well, who else? What else has caught your eye? I think Ultima is another company making some waves. Science by press release earlier this week.
Yes. So yeah, the lunch talk was actually this is the day where they do back-to-back silver sponsors. So
Hmm.
first it was Roche, then Ultima. And so Gilad Almoji was up talking, and so they did launch this new Solaris, and that's a new chemistry and better compute. So same box, same UG100, but just kind of an improved version. And his message was, he said, we promised a year ago when we launched, or when we launched, $100 genome and beyond, like we're going. And so his message was really like, we're going, we're still moving. And the whole thing with Ultima has always been big, like he's like, go, he doesn't say this, but go big or go home. So they have, he was talking about all of these really big projects that they've been involved in. So one is and we've written these up in Gen, the billion cell project with Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, and 10x, which is a single cell project that's going on. And they had Jonah Kuhl speaking about that today. Also, the large proteomics project that they're involved with UK Biobank and Olink. And so, one of the messages was, that, and actually Gilad said something that I wrote down, which I thought was really good. He said, we don't think we're the best at everything, but we want to be the best at one thing. And it was very clear that one thing is like big projects. So, and then the other thing that he talked about was how the UG100 is now being placed so that, you can use it as like a service. So if you don't have a UG100 yourself, you can still get that cheap sequencing if you go to one of the sites that he had on the slide, which I totally forget what they were.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. They've got new chemistry. I mean, the technology isn't that old. So again, interesting that they're sort of iterating and improving so quickly.
Yeah, and I think the other thing I just want to mention is also the well, the enthusiasm that both, so Mark Kokoris with the Stratos and Roche, and Gilad with Ultima, both of them were just so excited about what's going on. And, it actually didn't have really a hugely competitive vibe in there. It was like, well, everyone's doing awesome sequencing. And, we're just going to tell you what we do. That's great. But and Mark Kokoris even said something like at the beginning, I'm paraphrasing, but it was like, I have respect for all the technologies that are here. So it was like a nice kind of collegial vibe in there, I gotta
Yeah.
say.
Okay. We'll see how long that
Yeah, for
lasts.
companies that are actually competing with each other.
Have you made it to any science talks?
Yes. So the session this morning was near and dear to my heart about microbes and microbial genomics. So I would say the first one that I went to stood out a lot. It was Jeff Gordon talking about the microbiome and talking about really like harnessing genomic science to, number one, understand the microbiomes in undernourished children. And he was working in Bangladesh, but also then to use that science to develop new therapies that could potentially treat undernourishment in children. So yeah, I liked that talk a lot. And there were
Yeah.
other talks. So yeah, it was fun to just sit in some science this morning too.
Good. Good. Well, we'll leave it there, Juliana. Thanks so much for the
Oh,
midway.
wait,
Oh, there's one more
Kevin,
thing?
can I just tell you? I want to tell you what I'm rushing off to
Yes, so
now.
please, of course.
So as soon as we're done, I'm going to the bronze sponsor talks, and I wrote them all down. So here's what I don't
Okay.
know how many minutes each one gets, but it is kind of a long session. So it's going to be Watchmaker Genomics, IDT, NEB, Complete Genomics, Olink, N6, Parse, Scale, and PacBio.
Great.
So it's kind of a parade of companies and their
Yeah.
technologies. It'll
Yeah.
be
Good.
all afternoon today until about maybe 4:30 or 5.
All right. Well, we'll get the highlights of those presentations and much more in your final video diary report this same time tomorrow, Juliana. So have a fun rest of the day and see you tomorrow.
Thanks, Kevin. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.